Standing up in McKinney. This is According to Callus. It is the 9th of April, 2024, the year of our Lord 2024, and it was going to be episode 617. I did have a Texas Tuesday scheduled. I did post out a interview that I had done with Dave Schaefer. I suggest you check that out. He's running for re-election in Allen for city council. I've got two of my three Daves done, if you will. But today's episode is going to be entitled About Last Night, or perhaps The Truth About Last Night. Now, I want to be real careful. As always with this program, it is my opinion and my understanding of what happened. So before I go any further, let me also remind you, yes, I'm still going to ask you to subscribe, follow, tell your friends, join me on the social media of your choice. The subscriptions, the follows are extremely helpful in overcoming the shadow ban and the games that are played with social media. And I am at Facebook. I have a page, a group. I'm a pro over at Gab, and I still drop in at MeWe. And for the time being, the show still appears to be available via YouTube. All right. Here we go on with the program. So I know for those of you that are regular listeners or followers, particularly if you've tuned in on some of the earlier episodes, I've expressed my involvement with the Collin County GOP, my interactions, and some of my challenges and disappointments in dealing with Collin GOP. I also want to be clear that I don't think this is overly unique to Collin GOP, but doggone it, we just should be so much better than this. The only saving grace of the events that I'm going to describe to you here shortly are that, one, Denton County GOP is probably going to have their next meeting and shout, "Hold my beer," to one-up us in Collin County. And secondarily, we still have Montgomery County that is dealing with the fallout of their situation. So that's, I guess, my saving grace. That or the latest scandal from elected officials that can't keep their pants on. That being said, I want to tell you up front, in my opinion, this is much ado about nothing. I'm not sure what you heard. I'm not sure what the story is going to be now that, we're approaching 24 hours after the fact. But from my standpoint, it was pretty simple, and it was over quickly, and it did not get escalated, for which I am very grateful. So now that I've laid that out at the beginning, and also anything that I say here is being recalled to the best of my ability on demand, and I am certainly not testifying, nor do I expect this to be used one way or another if somebody would choose to go down that path. Again, I don't think anything occurred here that would justify that, but you never know. Okay. So we went to the executive committee meeting, and as you may recall, we're on, I believe, our fourth elected chair or appointed chair in the last 4 years or so. And some of that is outside events. A whole lot of it is just the inner workings of the party and the actions and behavior of a select few that are members of the executive committee. Now, I'm not necessarily looking to condemn them or their actions at this time. I'm just saying that they're proving to be challenging for the chairman to deal with. So just laying that out front, and I've been upfront about this the entire time, and I'm also going to avoid name dropping only from the standpoint that I don't think it's necessary. So we went through a process yesterday whereupon some certain things were, in my understanding, agreed upon for proper format to accomplish certain tasks, namely get the candidate committee's information in front of the executive committee for discussion and approval, and to allow for support from the Callan GOP. Now, this has been a very contentious issue because there are a number of us that don't think it's wise to endorse in municipal races. There are some of us that are open to endorsements, but only when there is a clear and compelling reason and when it's actually useful. And then there are those that think we should endorse in every race all the time. I think I could make valid arguments for all three. My position has always been I don't prefer to endorse in municipal races, but in the extent that there is a value to be gained for that, we should be selective and strategic about how we do it. I believe that some on the committee got that message, whether it was from me or just the overwhelming lack of success that we've had. Draw your own conclusions there. And to be fair, I'm not the only one that feels this way. It's just that the committee itself is very insular and they have their own ideas of how they want to do things. Again, not necessarily a slight, just an explanation. The executive committee of Callan GOP is very insulated and set on how they want to do things as a general whole as well. So again, that's normal with any committee. That's what you're going to be dealing with. So again, I'm not saying that to throw jabs, just trying to explain the situation. They came up, they gave what I would call a explanation of all the work they did without explaining the work they did, and then put forth before us the 11 candidates that they thought were worthy of an endorsement from the Republican Party of Callan County. Once again, there was no discussion. Once again, it was put forth to the body, and to be honest, I didn't have any objections to any of the nominees, quite frankly, because I don't know. They're not in my city, and why would I object to something that I have no dog in that hunt or I don't have any inside information? So that being said, nobody else said anything either. But before they made any motions, I asked the question, can you tell us to what extent did you interview people that weren't candidates or people from the actual community to get feedback related to the candidates or proposed candidates for that community? Now, there was an answer. I will say, in my opinion, it was underwhelming, but it was an answer. And I suspect that when you're just talking to your friends, you're going to get the answers that you already had. But again, I don't know. I wasn't there, and I'm not saying this to impugn them. I'm just bringing the question up that I didn't really get a satisfactory answer. Now, it was enough that the executive committee was satisfied, but be that as it may, that was where it was at. And again, I'm grateful that we were able to keep it peaceful and come up with an answer. Then they stepped up, a member of the committee, to go ahead and make a motion on both points. Well, I mean, we're talking basic level Robert's rules here. You can't make two motions at one time. You can make a motion and then make a secondary motion after the first motion is passed, but that's not what we did. And I mean, again, I'm not looking to beat up any one individual, but this is the candidate committee, and this is the people that have been wearing us out for 1.5 to 2 years about how important it is that we do what they want to do and follow their suit. And if you can't even make your motions properly, that's concerning. That's disappointing. And I imagine the vast majority of the people that were present in that executive committee didn't even realize what had happened. But I, again, stepped up to the microphone, asking for a point of order. Can you make two motions at the same time? I already knew the answer. Then I said, well, might I suggest we do this properly? Now, keep it in mind, I've been upfront that I'm not in support of actually the endorsement process that they have in place, but the executive committee has made a decision to do that. And because I'm a member of the executive committee and that decision's already been made, it's not my job to continuously cause problems or throw sticks in the wheel, if you will. My job is to make sure we do it properly, as any other member of the executive committee has a similar job. So when I step up to make these corrective measures, I'm doing it so that we can follow the proper process that a good number of these people who are on the candidate committee are so concerned that we do it properly and follow all the rules and waste, quite frankly, a ton of time on rules and dictates and minutia that is, quite frankly, destroyed 2 years worth of meetings because we can't accomplish the most basic things. That being said, we had a speedy executive committee meeting. And I did my part to guide and help them do it correctly and get it done in a timely fashion. And then once we completed, they brought up the issue of the schedule that we had never voted on. And by that, I mean a schedule for the year. Now, I don't know that it's the end of the world, although I think that there is a rule somewhere that says we're supposed to have a schedule voted on. Now, I don't think that it was the end of the world that we didn't have it. It's nice when you can follow all your rules and do things all the right way. But we've had, let's say, just a bit of contention playing out, certainly in the last 6 or 8 months. There's been a lot of the things going on that we just never actually got to that. And being that it was not on the agenda, and by the time that the question was brought up, we had already gotten past that. In fact, to his credit, our chairman said, hey, you know what? Call me about that tomorrow and we'll figure it out. I don't know how much more response you want when it's not on the agenda, it wasn't up for discussion, and then when you're told, call me about it tomorrow, and you don't take the hint that we're not going to deal with it tonight. Then to move on to the next thing on the agenda, which was announcements. And again, to his credit, the chairman tries to follow through, do his announcements, and once again gets interrupted by the same individual, questioning about the need to do this. And then when that individual is reminded that we're already past any section of the agenda where that would be appropriate, and I'm not recognizing you for that purpose. Now, the chairman has the right to recognize people for certain things at any given time. And if it's off the agenda or it's not in order, they don't have to be recognized. There's no quote unquote freedom of speech. This is a private club which has rules on how it works. And one of the defaults is Robert's rules. Now you can add rules on top of that that supersede that. But in this case, the chairman had said, no, we're done with that. And that should have been enough. But another individual decided to come up and ask for a point of information, which then promptly turned into an argument and further discussion, at which point they attempted to make a motion. Now, keep in mind, this individual was never been, I guess the word permission was used, but that's not the proper. They hadn't been recognized to speak on that specific issue. And if you're not recognized, you're not supposed to speak. Being recognized is a prerequisite to making a motion or asking questions or whatever else. Then you can have points of information and points of order. And again, this is very basic Robert's rules. And also, let me just say, I'm not the master at Robert's rules, but I know enough about it to not make stupid 101 errors. In the heat of moment, in the fly, sometimes you misspeak or you slur a word or you don't do something exactly proper. But as a general rule, every organization is pretty forgiving as long as you're following the process. So this other individual was told, no, you haven't been recognized. It doesn't matter that you made a motion because it wasn't recognized. So at which point I walk up to the microphone. I asked the chairman, Mr. Chairman, have we completed our agenda? Mr. Chairman, have you completed your announcements? Mr. Chairman, would it then be in order for me to make a motion to adjourn? At which point the chairman says yes. In the meantime, somebody's yelling second, which you're not technically supposed to do that. You're supposed to go up to the microphone, but be that as it may, we're not going to beat people. At this time, the second individual that had come up to argue about the calendar abruptly invades my personal space, to say the least, and makes a grab for the microphone. So, I guess it'd be fair to say I was a bit startled, taken aback. I got to say, I didn't react in any way that I had planned on ahead of time or considered. I would say the lizard brain kicked in, if you will, fight or flight. So I immediately grabbed the microphone with both hands, pulled it back out of his hand, turned around and faced the chairman, and readdressed the chairman correctly. And once the motion was made and then seconded, I handed it off to the other person that walked up to second it. I walked off. Now, at this point, the two other individuals who were, once again, trying to railroad our executive committee meeting stood and argued with the chairman. So to be clear, I can't say with absolute moral clarity that there was anything beyond clearly an invasion of personal space and rude behavior. At the time, I sure thought I felt a hand on me. I don't dispute that I said that. I certainly thought that was the case, which is certainly what motivated me to grab the mic with both hands and take it back. But notwithstanding that, that's just not how you treat people. That's not how we behave. You don't try and bully people. And actually, I said that exactly when I turned around. I said, "Why are you trying to bully me?" And then addressed the chairman. Now, I don't claim to be 100% innocent in this because I took action. There was an action initiated against me, and I responded. Now, when I was a much younger man, when, let's just say that my temper would get the best of me, that would have not went well. And I admit that. Whatever you want to say, I did maintain control. I did turn away from the issue. I did take and direct us back to where we're supposed to be to finish our business, and I did walk away. I can't say that I didn't get angry. I can't say that there wasn't an urge. But thoughts and actions are two entirely different things. Being willing to walk away, being willing to, drop it, I'm content with that. I've talked to a couple of dozen people after the fact. Nobody's called me out. Nobody said that, I was wrong or that I wasn't transgressed or aggressed upon. But that's all I got to work with. I mean, this is never easy. This is never anything to be proud of. I mean, the fact that you can't have a civil discourse without it crossing a line, and that's what happened. Now, look, I have zero desire to make a legal matter out of this. I have zero desire to see any of this escalated. As far as I'm concerned, it's done and over with. As far as I'm concerned, that person no longer has any standing in my life or any conversation that I might have. But the sad thing is, even after all this and anything leading up to this, I've always had a ton of grace when I'm dealing with people that are on my team. And I never got upset when people prefer a different candidate or they would feel differently about an issue than I did. I mean, sometimes it's disappointing, and depending on what the issue is, I can maybe push back. But as a general rule, once I know somebody, at least in passing, as far as political circles go, hey, you know what? We're the Republican Party. We can agree to disagree. It's okay. We don't all have to be on the same page. There's no need to call names, be rude, or, terrible to people. We're all generally on the same team. Now, I will freely admit, and I imagine the vast majority of the people in any given executive committee meeting for the last 2 years would say, we are tired of the nonsense. We are tired of the constant bickering and the wasted time on minutia and all the nonsense that's not relevant. I'm sympathetic to what some of the things are they're trying to accomplish. I have a certain appreciation for the tenacity that, hey, this is an important issue that we see and we want it dealt with. But the thing is when the body makes a decision, it's binding. When the chair makes a call, that's supposed to be sufficient for that period of time. But what's disappointing is some of these same folks, and yes, there's a significant overlap with the folks over at the candidate committee, they can't take no for an answer. They don't like the fact that somebody doesn't join them in lockstep, and they see everybody as a threat or an enemy that disagrees with them. And I don't know what percentage I'd put that at, but on a few issues, it's just beyond me. So my major takeaway is, one, hopefully a lesson was learned. You can't bully people and get away with it. The second lesson would be is, I'm happy-go-lucky 99% of the time. I get animated, I get passionate, but I'm not going to come to blows. And even when you transgress me, I'm not going to take revenge. I'm not saying that because I'm better or holier than thou. Lord knows that when I was a younger man, that was a challenge. But I'm not young anymore. I'm an adult. I have adult children. I have, I have lots of responsibilities. You can't behave at north of 50 like you would when you were 17 or 18, right? Just those days are gone. You can't act like that. So again, I'm not looking to pat myself on the back. I'm not trying to say I'm innocent. What I am saying is what occurred was a moment in time. Nobody got hurt. Maybe somebody's ego got bruised. There are no lasting effects other than the damage being done to our party, being done to our executive committee. And that night we had 3 new members of the executive committee sworn in. I've met one of the ladies. I know one of the ladies. And the third lady, I haven't seen her in several years, but I do have a familiarity with her and her family from back in the day. And it's heartbreaking to me that 1, I'm made to look bad. 2, our community, that is the Republican Party, looks bad. And 3, the executive committee looks bad for 3 new members. Now, I'm not sure what I could have done differently to prevent that from happening. But I'm going to tell you, some might call it toxic masculinity. I don't call it that at all. You cross certain lines and responses are going to occur whether they're intended or not. I would never think to go touch somebody or grab something away from them or invade their space in a threatening manner and not expect them to react. What do you think when you're doing something like that? That's just, I don't know if it's immaturity or thoughtlessness or just I'm a bully and I get away with this all the time. And while we're talking about bullies and getting away with this, I know for a fact that the individual that transgressed me has done it to another person, a member of the SREC, in concert with other people. And it got to the point where, right or wrong, there was a temporary restraining order put on him for that. I know for another time, this same individual had to be removed from disrupting our executive committee meeting because he couldn't control himself. And an additional time, I know that he threatened one of the other former chairs when he came up on the stage and got in his face. Now, I'm not sure that you're seeing a pattern here, but I am. So perhaps now that I've made this known, that I've given you this context, you could see why I might be taken aback, why I might be a little on edge when somebody approaches me like that. It's not like it was just some person I didn't know. It wasn't just like, somebody talking to you and kind of messing around and invade your space a little bit. And what's worse is I also know the same individual has physically imposed on other ladies. And I'm sorry. That's not something one adult man does to an adult lady. You don't get in their face. You don't get on them. You don't use your stature to impose them. Now, look, if There's obviously exceptions to that rule, but as a general rule, you don't do that to other people. And I know of at least one, if not two ladies that have told me of events similar to this where they felt threatened by his presence. Now, again, I'm not excusing anything that I might have done, but what I am saying is there is a context to what went on here. There's a track record to what has gone on here, and we need to deal with it. It's a disgrace to our party. It's a disgrace to our county. And it's, quite frankly, a disgrace to anybody that has to deal with this situation. I don't know what the proper answer is. I'm not going to take legal action. I'm not going to involve other third parties. What I am suggesting is we as a party, we the Republican Party of Collin County, we have to find a way to police our own. And yeah, I am putting this out here publicly. You know why? Because I have no choice. This event was documented on Current Revolt. I don't fault him. It's newsworthy. Tony Ortiz didn't tell any lies in there. He put it all out. And I've never caught Tony Ortiz in a lie. So, I mean, I don't begrudge him for doing his job. I've met the guy plenty of times. I don't know if I'd call him a friend, but certainly an acquaintance. We know each other by name. We do media stuff. No harm, no foul there. I don't know how many other people recorded what or any of what happened. I'm sure some angle it makes me look bad and some other angle it makes him look terrible. I don't know and I don't care. I could just tell you the events as I recall them, not looking to sway you one way or the other. Everybody's going to make their own decision. Everybody's going to do their own thing and they're going to believe what they want to believe. But what I can tell you is until the party deals with this situation, until Collin County GOP finds a way to deal with people that can't control themselves in these public meetings, we're going to have problems. We're going to have trouble. I don't know what the solution is. Now, sadly, as an elected precinct chair, you can't just disinvite this person to be there. We have bylaws. We have requirements. There are values of decorum that have to be upheld. And when you're going to continuously break them and violate the rules, there needs to be a consequence. I just don't know what it is. So I am curious, if you're listening to me and you're outside of Collin County, or you have experiences outside of Collin County, this can't be a unique experience only in Collin County. What have you done? Comment. Call me, text me, message me. I'm curious what's been done. How do you deal with this? How do you police for this situation? I don't want to chill speech. I don't want to people to feel like they can't speak their opinion or speak their values or speak their interest or hold the line on something. But there's a huge difference between doing that and getting up in people's faces and trying to intimidate people and, quite frankly, trying to bully other people. And no doubt there are people that are going to take the other side of this equation. No doubt there are people that are going to defend the actions of this other individual. And I will just say to them, what would you do if it was you? I'm not a small person. The other guy is not a small person. If I were to come up on you uninvited and get in your face and grab stuff from you, how would you feel? I didn't move. I had the microphone. I had the floor. I was the one that was in possession of that. And if you think I'm not going to defend myself or I'm not going to hold my ground, clearly I've shown you otherwise. I'm not an aggressor. Maybe at 15 I might have been an aggressor. I don't think I was, but somebody might tell you a different story. I don't know. But at 50 plus, I don't aggress anybody. But if you come up on me, I will defend myself. I will hold the line. I will push back if you push. Strangely enough, I've heard that we had a shoving match or there was pushing. No, there was none of that. There was my hands on the mic, twisting and pulling it away and taking control of the situation. And that was the extent of it. And I don't think that individual expected that to occur. I think that individual is used to bullying people and getting his way. And the longer that we tolerate it and the more that we sit by idly while these things happen, the more it's going to happen. And I, for one, am done with it. I'm not going to go looking for it. I'm not going to bring it. But I'm not backing down. I just wish I had Tom Petty's song that I could play for y'all. In any case, that has been According to Callus. We'll probably throw up tomorrow's episode first thing in the morning, or I should say today's episode first thing tomorrow morning. And until then, I will see you on the other side.